here at the Asian Law Caucus. We represent a lot of the Southeast Asian refugees who are facing deportation from Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And so I feel really humbled, and I should not be the one introducing PJ. There are a lot of people here in the room who have known PJ and spent time with him for decades inside. And I really don't know PJ half as well as some of the people in the room. But I first met PJ at San Quentin. And I was there on a legal visit. And by the time I went to go visit PJ for the first time, I'd been hearing about PJ for years from other clients who are at San Quentin, from people in APSC, and everyone described PJ as a giant. And so, PJ's story I was familiar with, that he was born in a refugee camp. His family had fled the genocide in Cambodia. He came to the U.S., grew up in Stockton, where so many people in this room who are incarcerated grew up as well. Got involved in gang violence and was sentenced to life in prison at the age of 14, one of the youngest lifers in California history. And so, I knew all this about PJ, and then I also had been hearing about PJ, the amazing things he'd done inside prison. His work with this group called Kit Kat that PJ helped form, which revolutionized parole and the way children sentenced to life in California are treated. And thousands and thousands of children sentenced to life, including so many people in this room, have gotten a chance of freedom because of the work PJ did while he was inside. And so I went there and I had no idea what PJ looked like, but I was expecting this person who's just like this awe-inspiring presence, and he didn't disappoint. I remember one thing I felt really ridiculous is at San Quentin, when you go for legal visits, a lot of times they put you in this family visitation room for overflow. So I remember PJ and I were sitting on these chairs that I think were for toddlers, sitting at this tiny little table talking. But I didn't really get to know PJ until PJ had paroled in 2016 and was being held by immigration in the Sacramento County Jail. And so I wasn't representing PJ, I was getting to know PJ just as a friend and a community member. But the staff here at the caucus are in that jail really often, and so usually when I was done talking to all my clients, I'd check in with PJ and talk to him. And so it's through those conversations I really got to know PJ over the year that he was detained in Sacramento. And PJ, over time, sort of became part of our team. PJ really supported and helped all of our clients in detention who were locked up with him. So one of my favorite stories of the way PJ sort of was part of our team, in October of 2017, ICE carried out the biggest raids on the Cambodian community in US history. And I remember PJ called me saying all these Cambodian people are coming into the jail, which was how we first heard about the raid starting. And so there was a point in December where the flight was getting ready to leave in a few days, and hundreds of Cambodian refugees were getting ready to get deported. And so Melanie and I went to the Sacramento County Jail to break the news to people in custody that the flight was happening. And so we talked to people and broke the news, and we were trying to talk to people about fighting their cases. And there were a lot of people we could get stays for. But people in detention at that point were just exhausted. They were just broken down. They had been incarcerated for months. They had been shipped across the country in shackles back and forth. They had no hope that anything was going to happen. They accepted they were going to be deported. And so Melanie and I spent hours pleading with people to fight, and we were really unsuccessful, and we left late at night, and very few people had agreed to fight. And so PJ and some of the other leaders in the pod spent the next few hours and days talking to people and convincing them that it was worth fighting. And over the next few days, people started to call us saying they had changed their minds. At the end, we stopped about half of the deportations in Northern California. It's a number that's like, overshadows the rate anywhere else in the country, and a lot of that is because of PJ and the strength of the families of people inside. But I'll leave it there and let PJ talk about himself.
I was 8 years old. I was standing on the playground yard, and I remember hearing sounds of firecrackers. And then I remember when I was younger, we always enjoyed the sound of firecrackers. There was something that in the Asian community that we celebrate. So every time I hear the sound of firecracker, I would run to it and have this happy feeling, like something great is about to happen. And so as I continue to run towards the sound, with my friend behind me, excited, I stopped, and he stopped. And I looked beyond to the sound of screaming kids. I remember it wasn't firecrackers, but there was sound of gunfire. And I remember seeing the blood everywhere on these kids. I remember seeing my cousin gunned down. And I remember my friend behind me with pulling me because the teacher was yelling for us and screaming at us to run. So finally, I was able to shake myself out of the trance, and we started to move away, and I can still hear the gunfire, like the bullets coming straight towards our head. And I remember coming across a kid who was just limping. It was like this blood on his leg, and he was limping, trying to get away. So we carried him all the way to a bathroom, and then afterward, the janitor told us just drop him and run. So I dropped him and I ran. And me and my friend, we went to the cafeteria and just we just stared at each other in silence. Like, we were shocked, like that actually happened. So I shared it because I came to the United States, it was a promise. And the promise was that you can feel safe. You have a bright future in America. But I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that at that moment. And so that was my first moment of being reminded of the refugee camp I came from growing up, with the soldiers, the bandits, and the gunshot. Something I left behind. Something my family left behind. At 11 years old, I had my first encounter with the bullies. I remember it was over another kid who was being picked on, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna help this kid. From that day on, I was starting to get into fight with bullies every day. Like, they noticed me, started to jump on me. And I was one of those kids who just didn't take things sitting down. So I always fight back, but I was isolated and alone. And I remember feeling really angry at life at the time. Like, really angry because I felt helpless. I felt alone. I felt like no one cared. No one understands, and I felt like I was rejected by my own community. The very community that was supposed to care about me. So finally, I was tired of it. I was just tired of everything. 12 years old, I decided my only solution to get away from all this stuff was just find my own friends and join a gang. I started carrying guns, started committing crime. Like, my gang friend was my family. Like, they showed me love, they hugged me, they care about me, something I always wanted. as a kid that I didn't get at the home. So I wanted like to be accepted, to be loved so much that when my friend asked me to commit crimes, to do a robbery, I didn't hesitate. Like that meant so much to me to have him. 14 years old, I agreed to commit an armed robbery. As I entered the store owner, and I don't use her name today because I don't have permission. And I want to honor her. My co-defendant fired 2 shots as a warning shot for the store owner to cooperate. I was scared, spooked by the sudden gunfire. I turned around to see where the gunfire was coming from. And the store owner reached from behind the counter, got a hold of my weapon, and began yanking it away from me. Didn't want her to have possession of my weapon, so we began fighting for it, and I yanked the gun away from her. I had my hand on the trigger, and I discharged my firearm. And she died. And I didn't know that she passed away because I ran away from the store as soon as I got a hold of my weapon. Several months later, I found out that she passed away and she died, that I turned myself in, and I was sentenced to 25 years to life for second-degree murder while using a firearm. I remember at 18 years old, walking in a prison yard, like noticing I was different. Like everybody was different. Everyone has tattoo. People were older. People were scary looking. They had beard. And I remember just like feeling like very vulnerable. It wasn't until 2004 when I was sitting in the class with a group of 8 men who was dialoguing, we were sharing a story. We were trying to connect and just share our knowledge of what we had. And I remember my friend Martin shared a story. He was the facilitator at the time about how he lost his daughter, both his daughter. And I see his pain, I see his tears. I watch his body shake and tremble from having to describe and relive his moment. For the first time in a long time, I reconnected with myself. I realized that I did the same thing to another human being, to another family. So I changed my life. I made a commitment that that was never going to happen again. Like no one should ever have to go through that. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here today in front of you all because I think it's important for people to know. Because my story isn't unique. It's a story about a lot of kids, a lot of youth, a lot of Southeast Asian refugee who came to this country wanting a better future. But that's not what they found. And in my life, all I wanted for myself, for my family, is family. To be loved, to be accepted, to be safe, to be a part of a community. A community that cares and nurturing. That was the dream. That was the American dream. And that's what I wanted. And so I guess I'm here because I love my family, I love my friends. I want to be here with them, but I need help. I need help to stay here. Thank you.